Thank you, family. My name is Sharron, and I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 2016. And lately, when I've been saying 2016, I can't believe like this is year 10. Like we're sliding in, we're sliding in the year 10. And it brings like chills to me because I had no idea. My home group is Bronx Big Book Study. We meet every single night at 9 p.m. on the Zoom platform. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor. I sponsor men and women. And what that means is I walk them through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line. And we do the stuff that's in a book. We do everything that's like the way it's laid out in a book. Right. And one of my favorites is 10 and 11, right? We do 4. They sit down and do 4. And we sit down 5, 6, 7. We give it to God. 8 and 9, we go clean up. 10 and 11 is where we learn to grow, right? Am I effective? Am I growing? That is where I bump up against the world, get pushed back, get back up, do some inventory, and I keep getting bumped, like, right? And then that's where I get to grow. The stuff that I'm doing, is it effective? Is it effective? And then it brings me to 11, right? And it's funny because, 11 is, this conscious contact with God as we understand him. And I'll tell you, when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had an idea of God. Right? I was raised in the church and went to church and did all the church stuff. And then somewhere around 13, stopped going to church, 14, somewhere between 13 and a half, picked up my first drink, right? So right after, it was like this little sweet spot. I probably left church at 12, stopped playing with Barbie dolls, and then all of a sudden I was getting drunk. And then I never really looked at God again, or this idea of religion, or this idea of church, like this whole thing I just kind of set aside. And somewhere in my life, I remember saying, I'm a spiritual person, right? That's because I didn't have really a real answer to this God idea, but I believed that there was a God. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I just didn't know how God was going to work for me. I didn't believe God could work for me. I didn't believe God could remove this obsession that I had. I didn't even know I had an obsession. So when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous, I believed in God. I looked at your little shades on the wall, and I remember thinking, oh, God? Oh, good. Good. I believed in that God before I believed in you guys. I trusted that God before I trusted you guys, right? Because I was like, okay, good. Now, how are they going to get me? Like, how is this going to work? Because I believed in God. I just didn't have access to this God. Like, I didn't know, right? And I didn't even, at that time, I didn't even believe that I deserved prayer or God's grace, God's mercy. I didn't believe I deserved any of that stuff. It wasn't until I started to watch you all with your little prayers. Because and I love the books and stuff that we have and all the prayers, starting with the Serenity Prayer. I remember going home early trying to memorize it. And even today, when I say the Serenity Prayer, I say it really slow. Like when I'm in in-person meeting, I whisper it to myself. And when I'm sitting across from a sponsee, I say it really low and stop in those stanzas, right? Like there's 3 stanzas, like I pause in between and get a few beats so I can feel those words. We talk about step 11, right? This conscious contact with God and through prayer meditation. When I pray, like the pausing in a prayer, like those little moments are like meditative states, where I get to just sit on those words for a minute. I get to sit on those words. So I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled you guys were talking about God. Thrilled. I just didn't know how God was going to work for me. I couldn't understand that part because I lived this life and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And then all of a sudden, God started showing up in your lives and I got to watch. You got to become my third step demonstration. And that was how I started to believe. And I picked up those little spiritual the toolkit at my feet. I picked that up and I started doing what you were doing and started by these little prayers. And then you said, I remember, hey, throw your keys under the bed. I didn't have a problem with prayer, though, honestly. Like I was ready to pray. I just didn't think I knew how to pray. And then you guys taught me these lovely prayers. So if you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, welcome. If you're not new, welcome. Right? Everything is here. We have the spiritual toolkit at our feet. All we have to do is pick it up. Pick it up. So what I selected tonight was with it we could broaden and deepen the channel between ourselves and God as we understand Him. And that's on page 102, and it's coming right off of the idea of meditation. And I love 11 and the 12 and 12 because it talks about like meditation first and then it goes into prayer. It's like now about prayer, right? But meditation, sometimes we think that we need to do it a certain way. Right? All you need to and sometimes I hear people saying, I don't know if I was doing it. That the just trying, just the act of doing, just sitting. The other day I read 12 minutes of quietness is like enough to change your life. And it was in another piece of work. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. And for me, I meditate in different forms and variations. When I first got here, I just sat down quietly, right? Sometimes I'll do a guided meditation. Sometimes I'll do a quiet meditation. Sometimes I'll read a piece of literature. And I think we call it two-way prayer, right? A piece of literature out of somewhere. And then I'll write and I'll listen. I'll write and I'll listen. I'll write and I'll listen. Other times I'll just write. Sometimes I write. Like I have a journal that I started way before I even got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And it is Dear God. Dear God. And it's just a regular journal, right? And then the other day what moved me was a prayer journal. And I was like, God, I don't even know what a prayer journal is. And then all of a sudden what happened is I read these other books that are part of my prayer meditation that are not AA approved, right? But I'm going to tell you this. A lot of our stuff in the big book is pulled from there. So I read the big book, right? And I get some of that stuff. And what I end up doing is I just write. I write this and sometimes I don't even know. The other day I was writing on forgiveness and it came out of the Lord's Prayer. And like I am to forgive, right? The way I want to be forgiven. And I start looking at that stuff and I start dissecting it. And then I start asking God, like, God, can you look around all the corners and help me see these resentments? And where do I need to go and be honest? And where do I need to go bring some stuff and clear it out? Because I can't go to God with all of this stuff. And I'm hitting the wall with my brother and sisters. But I'm like, hey, God, take me, all of me. So a lot of this stuff, all of this stuff I got from you guys. When I got to step 3, when I first got to step 3, when I got here, I made a decision to continue on. Right. And that was really for me to do step 4. And then you told me when I do 4, I might as well do 5. I done got all the stuff out already. Right. And today what that looks like is it's a little different because my step 3, there's some real questions that get right before the prayer, right? The step 3 prayer, we love the third step prayer. We love it. But it's like, hey, Sharron, do you believe that God can give you direction in life? Are you willing to turn your life? Are you willing to turn and ask God, like, hey, God, what should I do today? Hey, God, what should I do about this? Hey, God, I got a problem at work. What should I do about this? Do I believe that God will give me that direction? Do I believe that I'm a representative for God? When I go to work, when I go in and I say good morning to the people, do I believe that I'm representing God as He would have me be right here, right now? Do I believe that God will give me what I need? I didn't even get to the prayer yet. These are some decisions. And sometimes with those decisions, I'm like, oh, and I can't sit here and tell you that I'm always like, yep. Sometimes I bump up against you and I'm like, ouch. And then I turn, I'm like, that must have been a decision that Sharron made on her own. And I usually feel those. And it might take me a couple more. And then I might get there. Right? and when we talk about that forgiveness, like, right, like, and part of, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. This is just the stuff that's on my heart that's going to clear this channel. Like sometimes in our nightly review, right? Because it also tells me, I get up in the morning and I wake up on awakening, right? I'm like, all right, God, what's the plan for the day? And it gave me some guidelines. And what I do with that stuff is I write it out. Like my 11th step, like all of those directions, I write it out. It is a prayer for myself. And then I go out in the world on 10, right? Step 10, and I'm watching. And I'm watching and I'm turning and I'm bumping and I'm doing this and right. And then when I get home at night, now I review my day. Where did I play God? Like who did I bump up against? And the most important thing is, I ask God for forgiveness every night. And then that other book says, like the guy told his friends, all his 12 friends, he said, hey, y'all should ask for forgiveness every day because you don't even know what you did or what you didn't do. Just ask for the forgiveness. And very similar to what the 11th step nightly review says. Ask for forgiveness, right? And what corrective measures should I have taken? And that doesn't mean that I write down a list of stuff, what to do for tomorrow. No. I give that to God. Hey, God, what should I have done instead? And then I go to sleep. Sleep. I don't write a list. I don't do the thing. I don't. And then on awakening, and we start over. And we start over. So this idea of meditation, what it's done for me, and it's been a journey. It's been a really beautiful journey. My prayer meditation practice. Sometimes I love to get on my knees and pray. I love to like I said, I'll sit in meditation with guided sometimes, and it depends on what I'm going through because I can feel it in my belly. Right. And when it's stuff, right. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that this is a time for peace and like serenity where I could hear sometimes when my life is moving, when it's moving fast, things are going fast. And what'll happen is I'll see one of your lovely faces cross my meditation, right? Cross my thoughts. And that's just reach out. Right? I consider that as God tapping me on the shoulder. Reach out to one of my kids. And when I do that, it's usually met with, oh my God, I can't believe you called. I was just thinking about you. And I'm going to tell you a story. There was a time where my son it might have been his first hospital thing. He suffers from mental illness and we had a hospital stay, right? And in the psych ward. And I was on my way home and I said, God, I was in the car going back to New Jersey. I said, God, I can't talk no more. I said, I just cannot talk. I cannot tell another soul. No more talking. No more talking. And I'm driving my little car. And all of a sudden the phone rings. And I look at the phone and I say, the person that's calling me is a person that does not know. She lives in California somewhere. We've never met in person. She has no idea what's going on with my son. She calls me. I know her story. And she suffers from the same thing my son suffers from. God sent me a person who could share her experience, strength, and hope with me. And I pick up the phone and I say, hey, what made you call me? And she said, I was just thinking about you. And I said, thank you for answering God's tap on the shoulder. And she starts telling me she could answer the questions right? I say, well, he don't want to take his medication. And she's like, yeah, it feels good when we don't take our medication. What? She starts telling me this experience from her own lived experience. I didn't have to do the talking. All I had to do was listen. There's a lot of times where, so when those things happen to me, I believe that my channel is cleared. where I can hear God. And I heard recently somebody said, well, I don't hear God and God ain't yelling. I hear God. Man, do I hear God talking. And sometimes it's these little conversations, or like a name will pop up. And when the name pops up, I make the action today. Like there were times where I didn't do the action. I'd be like, oh, I'll call him later. Or like now, if like I'm picking up the phone, I'm sending a text, I'm doing something. Sometimes it's only a text message with a heart. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Because what'll happen in turn, that person will say, hey, and they'll pick up the phone like, oh my God, I need to talk to somebody. Just recently, I was out in Boston and again, my son, right? Something was happening. I already made the decision to come home. I'm driving home and it's quiet. And again, I don't want to talk. I just want to get from Boston to New Jersey and I'm just driving. And I say something like, when I get halfway mark, I'll call somebody. And all of a sudden I see a text message. And it comes up on the screen and says, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I loved you and I'm so happy that you're my friend and thank you for everything you've given me. And all I have to do is hit the button and the phone talks, right? Like it comes on and a call is made. I wasn't ready to make the call, but God needed me to be around somebody who loved me, who like those are the things where I just pull into action. Like I no longer stray away from that. The channel is clear. I had something else happen to me where a question was posed to me. Who was a loving person in my life when I was a kid? And I was like, oh, I can't think of anybody, right? And I started thinking, and all of a sudden my Nana popped up, but it's not my Nana. We just call her Nana, right? So it's not my Nana, but she popped up in my head. And I remember how she took care of me and she was like special and I had all this fun with her as a little kid. And she popped up and I was so grateful. I was like, oh my God, Nana. Oh, I love her so much. Right? So she's on my heart and my mind. A couple days pass and I'm at work. All of a sudden, call from Nana. And I look at my phone. I'm in a work meeting. I can't pick up. I'm like, oh my God. Work meeting ends. I call Nana. She doesn't pick up. Something happens with the phone. I don't know. And I say, I got to call her. So in about a day or two, I call her and I get to tell her what she meant in my life. I get to thank her for being there for me. I get to thank her for creating a safe space. I get to thank her for letting me play in her hair and braid her hair and teaching me how to crochet and all of these lovely things. Right? Like the chant, like it just comes so fast sometimes that if I don't catch it, I will miss it. I got it like it, and it's funny because I didn't even mention she called me because she couldn't remember my name. So I know she's suffering from something. So I made a mental note that I got to get there. She said she's gonna shoot. Like I got to get to her. I got to physically see her. She's not far from me. But these are the things where I believe like things are cleared up, where I can just hear and see and feel the people and it's just lovely. And I think, no, I believe this comes from my conscious contact with God. Not that I think. I know it does. And what happens is when I'm constantly doing, I'm going to say the work, the stuff, right? When I'm constantly in prayer, when I'm constantly turning to God, and sometimes I don't even know what to say to God. Sometimes all I do is say, God, right? God, like God, because God doesn't need a monologue of what I need help with. Sometimes I do say, God, let me tell you something real quick, right? And sometimes that's when I need somebody to talk to, and I just talk to God. But sometimes I just call out God's name. And in that, I get this quietness and this peace. So this idea of like this channel and being connected, like this channel of being connected to God and to you. Because what also happens is if I'm not connected to you fluidly, then my channel to God gets like blocked and like clogged. And I could feel it. I could feel it. Like that's that uneasiness in my belly. You might have it too, right? Because they talk about this sixth sense that we get, right? Like that intuitive thing that we get from like 11, right? Right off of 10, right? We get this intuitive tuition. When it's blocked and when I can't hear or feel, like that means, uh-oh. And then I got to do this like quick inventory. Like, who am I bumping up against? Who am I bumping up against? And sometimes I use weird terminology like, who did I put on the shelf that I need to clear up right now? Who's on my shelf that I need to talk to, clear up? And what I do a lot of times is I have this prayer list. This prayer list. And I heard it from one of you. Somebody had a prayer list and I was like, oh, I want one too. And what that is, it's just a little book, a little book that I have, and I write your names in the book. I can go to a meeting and I can hear something. I can hear you say you're struggling with something. I can hear anything. Sometimes I don't even know you, and you're on my prayer list. Right. So sometimes when I'm in 10 where it says, like, think of others, sometimes I pull out my prayer list. Right. And then the prayer, I don't do this whole monologue. This person needs, it's just bless John, bless Denise, bless Pat. That's it. And if I'm having a problem, if I'm bumping up against you, bless this person and remove my thoughts. Right? And that's it. And I go through these names and my list is growing and it's beautiful. Like the list is growing. And sometimes when I get there, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this person. And then recently I remember reaching out to somebody, say, hey, how's your brother? And she said, what? I said, yeah, your brother. He was on my prayer list. She had no idea. She said, oh, he's doing good. I said, yeah, said something. What's up? And I add him on my prayer list. So when I need to turn to others, I go to this prayer list. When I need to clear away the channels that's blocking me, I go to this prayer list, right? I also mentioned I write down my prayers. Like I have this, something came to me the other day, the prayer journal, right? And in this prayer journal, it's a combination of my readings. A couple of months ago, like I was flooded out of my apartment, right? And I was like living in a hotel and I was trying my hardest to stay on structure. I gotta pray. And I had like 6 books, right? I had like all of these books and I would run around with these books and I had these books and I had to read these books and I had to read them like part of my prayer and meditation. I had to read. And this one morning, I had my books ready and it's about 5:30 and my phone rings. And I'm looking at my books and I'm looking at the phone. And I'm like, God. And God's like, pick up the phone. So I pick up the phone and I have this lovely talk about God. The talk is about God. Like I'm talking to Sponty and she's somewhere and this and that and that. I don't know, but God is always part of my conversations today. There's no way not to. Because if you're talking to me and it's something, I'm like, did you turn to God? Like, what did God say? Like, did you bring us a prayer? Like, hey, right? And then when I end a call with a sponsee, I end it in prayer. And the book, this 11 Step talks about the prayer, right? One of the prayers that I love doing is, my sponsor helped me with this. When we started working together, I would just say the prayers that was in the books and stuff like that. And I remember he was doing this freestyle, calling freestyle prayers, right? Praying from his heart. And I started praying from my heart. And now today, that's all I do. Right? So I'm talking to a sponsee and now I'll say, hey, you want to close this out in prayer? So all of the people now freestyle prayer. Right? They all pray from their heart. And this is not to say that anything is wrong with the other prayers. Absolutely. I will use another prayer in a minute. But this idea of freestyle praying and, yeah, it's lovely. So this idea of freestyle praying, which I do all the time, like, so I'm talking to the sponsee, we hang up. And then I remember thinking like, I didn't do my books. And I had to sit in meditation because I had this idea that Structure, structure, structure. I gotta be so rich. I gotta be rich. I can't do it. I gotta do it. Gotta do. And then another phone call came in. And then another phone call came in. And then another phone call. So I got 4 phone calls before 9 a.m. all talking about God. And here it is. I'm looking for the books to read about God. It's experiential. Like, I gotta go through the experience of it. And the phone calls was the experience. Like, so I have to not be rigid. I have to be open. I have to keep this channel open so that I can hear God through the people. And that is how I get to God, through the people, to reconnect to the people. Because when I'm in my books, sometimes I'm in my head, sometimes I'm in the books. And then I'm thinking, right? And I'm thinking. But I gotta do it through my experience. And you are my experiences. You are my experiences. So from that experience, I moved away from the 6 books. So I think I have 2. Right? I think I have 2 books now. And, if I need to pick up one for a day or whatever, most of them are daily readings. And I will say that big book that I'm referring to, about 2 years ago, I am in prayer. I said, God, I want to read that big book. I said, but there's no way I'm starting from page 1, like that first chapter. I was like that. I can't, my brain won't even allow me to do that. And what falls off my bookshelf that must have been there for, I don't know, a book, it's not approved, it's an Emmett Fox book, but it's a daily reading. And this daily reading each day led me to reading something in that big book. And all of a sudden, I'm doing the thing that I prayed for. We talk about prayers being answered. I'm doing the thing that I prayed to do. And that was 2 years ago. So I have another daily book that does the same thing. So now when I go through this big book, it's highlighted from the stuff I did 2 years ago and the stuff that I've been reading. When we talk about prayers coming to life. Man, and it's 12 and 12. I was reading earlier today. It said some of us think of prayer and meditation as like the breath in the air we breathe. Like, I don't know what I would do today if somebody said, hey, no more praying and meditation. Like, maybe a day I'd probably be like, okay. But I don't know, like, because it just brings me this peace. This peace. And I love how people have been sent to me. I remember my best friend was dying, and this person came out of nowhere, right? I don't know. We might have been on the tail end of COVID, whatever. I have no idea. But she came to me, and she left me. But she came to me as a super duper religious person, super duper, right? And she had these prayers, and she would do this stuff like call me out of nowhere and say, you was just on my heart, and I just want to pray. And she made the idea, and this was a couple of years ago, she made the idea of prayer lovable for me, accessible to me. Meaning that I can pray at 2:15 in the afternoon. Meaning that at 7:18 p.m., I can have prayer. Meaning at any moment I can pray. I remember when my son, and what that did was it opened me up for when my sponsor, it was like freestyle prayer. And I remember when my son, I was going through some stuff and I'm sitting here on crutches and he's in the psych ward. And I was like, all right, I need some prayers. I need some prayers. And everybody that called me, I said, can we close out with a prayer? And it's funny when you say that to people. They're like, what, now? Yes, please. And then they just start praying. It was like, thank you. And the other day, on my way home from Boston that day, a couple of weeks ago, it was a Sunday and New Jersey was hit with this crazy snowstorm, which I got home Saturday. Sunday was a snowstorm. Roads were shut down. I couldn't get to my boy. And I remember being in the house like, oh my God, what am I going to do? My hands are tied. God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And God was like, well, do what you did before. Do what you did before. And I called up my friends and I told you guys. But it didn't come that easy. I remember thinking, I was like, God, I don't want to tell everybody that I'm going through this thing. I don't want to have this conversation over. And then the next thought was, but you need prayer. So I just did a quick text message to people. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And then in that text message, some folks called me back and they were like, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying. And then the next day they were following up, following up, following up. See, I can't do none of this alone. Like this whole journey, like even, I came in there and got sober. Like I couldn't do the journey part, the sober part alone, my recovery, because this is part of my recovery part. We talk about being recovered from this hopeless state of mind and body. Like this part is thank you. Thank you, John. The sobriety part, that was me not drinking, but now how do I live my life? And we talk about and here we talk about this emotional balance, and through prayer meditation, I get to this emotional balance. And I love when, the book talks about the inventory, tied in with prayer meditation. That is our spiritual foundation. Like that's how I become in this recovered state, right? I got to see what's going on. Where's the channel? What's blocked? And bring to prayer meditation over and over and over. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It never ends. And actually, I love the prayer meditation part of it. Again, so what does it look like for me? I get up in the morning, I pray and meditate. I have 2 books, now just 2 books. And, but I do a lot of, writing. And everything changes. Sometimes when things are really, 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 really tough, I'll do some 2-way prayer writing. Now I have this new prayer journal that I'm having fun with. And I tell you, it's about 2 weeks old. And it's a combination of my readings and where I am today, right? Like in the mornings, and then I get to sit on that, and then I get to go back and like all of the stuff. The other day I was reading about, the light. And the book was talking about we got a light to shine. And how he was with his 12 friends and he was like, yeah, don't go to we're in a really a place where all the people are. No, we got to go to the place where the people are not, where they don't have the light, where it's dark, where they're in sin and they're heavy and they got the holes in their soul. Alcoholics Anonymous people, this is where we got to shine the light at. And it just reminded me about my responsibility. My responsibility. So in that prayer journal, all of that stuff is in there. And then I have my journal and just all this writing, but I try to keep it fluid. I try to keep it changing. But it's constant. Prayer meditation is constant to keep this channel clear. My name is Sharron. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Wow. Thank you, Sharron. We'll now open the meeting for Q&A. Please note that in this meeting, we encourage asking questions.
So there was somebody before me. Where'd they go? Teresa, alcoholic. Thank you so much, Sharron. I was thinking, intuition is a big deal. And this internal GPS, you know what I mean? That we're really cultivating that more than anything. So I wondered, how can you distinguish, which I think most people have a challenge, between the voice of spirit or intuition versus your own head?
Oh, thank you so much for that question, Teresa. So it's funny, I came up on this lovely word called discernment recently, and I've been sitting with it and turning it over. And when I don't have to rush into it, when it's slow, when it's slow, when I don't have to rush into it, and it's something in my belly, when it just, it's funny because something is pulling at my heart, like when it's in my heart, but I don't know if it's in my heart or it's in my belly. But when the answer doesn't come fast, it comes really quiet and it's like faint almost, and it just comes in like almost through like almost left field. It's not something that's a primitive thought. Like it's not usually like that first thing where I'm like, man, it's not usually that. It's something else that comes in kind of slow and I'm like, huh? And I sit back and I'm like, okay. So I think it's that. It's not where it's the response that is slow, usually not my first thought. I hope that answers that discernment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for a beautiful question, and thank you for a beautiful answer, Sharron. Kelly, you are up next.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much, my beautiful friend. I'm not sure if a question will come out of this, so I'll be quick, but I had to tell you, you crossed my mind today. And then when I got home and saw you were speaking, I'm like, I have to text her. And wow. And just to hear you, and you just helped me so much because, well, for one thing, I've been doing like freestyling my prayer way more than I ever did. It's just been a whole new experience, but I didn't know what to call it. So now I know I'm freestyling. So thank you for that. I've also been walking around, and I think I wasn't up to 6, but I'm walking around with 5 books, and almost all of them are daily books. And they come to the living room, or they come to my bed with me. They go everywhere, and they've been stressing me out. And I gotta let go of them. I need to, I can do a different one every day. I don't need to worry if I miss days. And it's such a beautiful thing. I got so much out of your share, and it makes my heart so good to see you and hear you. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Marilyn. Come on, Marilyn.
Hey, my name is Marilyn. I am an alcoholic. Thank you so much, Alice and everyone. And thank you, Sharron. I just wanted to slip in here and say thank you for saying yes. Sharron and I have had a few of our own spiritual experiences, and it was just fluid, no planning, none of that, just not staged, just fluid. And you started me with the prayer list, and your son was the first name on my list, and I didn't even know his name. It was just Sharron's son. Now I know it's Henry, so I get to call out his name. I thank you for that. And you were talking about you bumping up against the world, or bumping up against your sisters and your brothers, and you feel like maybe that's when you can tell that your channel is blocked. Do you know before you feel this blockage that you're in this tug with someone? Do you already know it and you hadn't cleaned it up until you felt the channel blocked? Or do you not know it and then you say something's going on?
Today, and it's funny because Teresa mentioned the word your intuition. Today I can feel it, right? Sometimes I just had a situation yesterday where I was projecting. I know when I'm projecting. Nothing ain't happened yet. Nothing happened. And I already prepared my speech to tell the people, yeah, I can't do this. Because I didn't even need the speech. Nothing happened. So for me, that is a form of blockage, right? Because it took some hours, right? I came up with this whole speech that I was going to do. I spent energy on it, right? It blocked me from being useful for somebody who needed me at that moment because I'm in my head. So I feel it. I feel it immediately. Now, sometimes I can't stop myself, right? But I will say, it was a quick turnaround. And I think that's the difference today. The turnaround's a lot faster.
Thank you for the question. I think that we are going to have a lovely Q&A. There were lots of hands up, and Sharron, there's love for you in the chat. Jacqueline, you are up.
Hi, I just wanted to say, Jacqueline Alcoholic, that your share was amazing and it really touched me today. I needed to hear everything that you said. And is that your number on your screen? I texted you to see about sponsorship.
That's right, girl.
That is my number, Jacqueline.
Get it. That's right. Okay. You are up, Rena.
Hi, everybody. Rena, alcoholic addict. Hi. Thank you so much. Like, God is so good. I'm a month into this program. I'm 23 days. I want to claim it. It sounds like nothing, but it's everything to me. I just want to thank you so much. I had 3 women from a prayer group that I attend every day send me this. And yeah, I needed to get on. The obsession is like gone. Thank you guys. See, this is the heart. This is what I mean about this. It's insane to me. I guess this is my question. So I'm really new in the program, and God is definitely leading me where I need to be. Like he led me to this meeting tonight, and that's what he's been doing for me, right? And I guess what I'm finding is in my own ADHD head is like I ping pong everywhere. And, it's like there's so much input about like what meetings and who to talk to and phone calls. And I guess the intuition, like I'm finally like, it just started happening to me 2 days ago. And it's from somebody who said to me, like, do you hear that? Like that tiny voice that like you're telling to shut up. Like that's the one you got to listen to. And I'm trying to hear that more. But I guess my question is, what advice would you have for somebody who's really new? Because like I wrote down while you were speaking, Mary and Martha, like from the Bible. And I'm like, am I being Mary sitting at his feet? Or am I being Martha running around? And I think I go from being burnt out to peace.
I got your answer right now. So
Okay.
one of my closest friends, sister friends, says we need 5 things. You got a sobriety day. You said you got 23 days. Hold on to it, right? You need a sponsor, a guide. You need somebody, right? Because sometimes your voice, it may not, right? You might hear it, but it might not be really strong as of yet. Right? Because it might be, right? So you might need somebody else's voice for right now, right? And this is what a sponsor or a guide, somebody who is grounded, right? Somebody who is grounded in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Somebody who has a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, right? You need a network, right? So do get some people so you can follow them around in meetings. Follow them around in meetings. You need a home group. You need somewhere where you're showing up every single day. Get a home group that meets every single day, man. So you can show up 7 days a week and they say, hey, Rena, hey, Rena, hey, Rena. And you need some service. You need to call 3 people a day. Call 3 people a day and say, hey, I'm just calling to see how you are doing today. How you are doing today. And listen to that.
Woo! I love you. Okay, we have just a few minutes and 3 people, but Andrew, you are up.
Good evening, beautiful souls, all alcoholic Andrew. Thank you, Fellowship of the Spirit. Thank you, Alice. And thank you, Biker Lady. I was worried I'd be kicked out because I was eating a cookie on screen, but anyway. We've entered the world of the Spirit, They introduce us to that in step 10. At the moment. Much of your talk was at the moment in step 11, this meditation and prayer. And I've been thinking, it's scary. It's a whole new world. I've been living with 5 senses, all self-based, for all these years. And now AA is saying, pay attention to names, pay attention to thoughts that come into your head. Suddenly the thought, I just remembered somebody from years ago. I may not have their number or run into them. But now I've noticed is that when I communicate with people, I remember what we last communicated about. And they seem to like that. Everybody has a sense of loneliness, like they've got their own special problem and they like to be remembered. And I like to do that. For prayer, I think I've been selfish lately, but I realize it's another act of getting out of self. Can you give me a quick response to that?
Sharron?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the chat. Sorry. To get out of, my idea to get out of self is to really help others. And you said something earlier about when somebody pops into your head, but you don't have their name, or you have their name, but you don't have their number. Prayer list. And I believe the person will come to you. Like right? I just put the person on my prayer list, and all of a sudden I'm sending up these little prayers, right? Each time I go through this list to this person, right? And I believe when I can serve others, I get out of self. I don't know if that answered the question, Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have just a couple minutes, but I've got Molly N. Sherry, Molly, you're up.
Thank you so much, Alice. Hi, everyone. I'm Molly. I'm an alcoholic. Sharron, I adore you. Thank you so much for your share. Thank you for mentioning prayer lists and letters. Sometimes for me, I will write them on like parchment paper, and then when, I have a full book or a done letter, I'll burn them, and that's kind of a ritual in and of itself. I'm wondering for you whether you have some kind of practice for when a book is full or when a letter is done. Do they go to the recycling or the bookshelf, or for you is the emphasis in the actual prayer and the act itself?
So in my journals, I've kept my journals because there's times I go back and I can see where I was, at year 3 of sobriety and what was like crippling me almost, right? And now I'm like, oh my gosh, right? But I also believe in burning the things that I want to be rid of, which are not like the lovely things. So it may be thoughts or things where I do have a little bowl, I have burned paper, and I'll just write it out like a note, but that's not part of my journal or my prayer list. It's something else that I might be bumping up against where I'm like, okay, this is inventory done, check, like stuff is done, but I do have that, and I just knew that's a new practice for me where probably the last few months, just burning those things that I really wish to be rid of.
Thank you.
Okay, we just got like a rapid fire now. So Sherry, you are up.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to know something, and I think that you might have shared it, but when you go to your sponsor, and the reality is that the most important person or the most important relationship is a higher power. So when your sponsor tells you to go to prayer and, but you're still not getting an answer, what do you do?
I stay in prayer. I'm sorry, like there's like stay in prayer and action, because usually they're connected. Like prayer, like if I'm in prayer, I'm usually doing some type of action. So I might be in prayer about something, but I'm going to work with some sponsees. I'm going to share somewhere. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to help my family. I'm doing some other stuff. So I'm in action over here, but I'm in prayer over here. And what ends up happening is the thing over here that I'm praying about gets worked out. But while I'm in physical action doing something else. So I don't stay settled. I don't stay like not moving. I'm in prayer, but I'm also in action. And action is, right, if it's going to meeting, if it's doing family, AA, like whatever it is, I'm action.
Thank you, Cherry, for the question. And Sharron, thank you for your answer. Before I go back to John, if you have been fed by this meeting, if you have gotten something out of this meeting and you think that it should be here for people in the future, come next week and be a part of the business meeting, take on a service commitment, contribute in some way. Thank you guys for allowing me to be of service. John, back to you.
Thank you, Alice. I need promotion.